Lord Meher, we're up to page 865. I'm going back to the last paragraph on 864 to give us a little uh, content, context. Besides his spiritual work, the physical hardships he has to undergo in connection with finishing the prarabdha of the circle are no less strenuous. He personally undergoes such physical actions necessary in bringing about a joint and clear balance sheet of material sanskaras of the circle. Hence, although he is a perfect being, free, and requires no binding or actions, he seemingly has karma and does karmic acts, but they are deeds without bindings.
What
He
is
may,
parabda?
it's a type of sanskaras that the circle members have, I believe.
Yogi.
Although no, they could just be the regular sanskaras that everybody has, actually.
Parabda. I've never come into that. No.
He may observe fasts, penances, or silence according to the respective necessities of the individual parabdas of the circle. During this period of the perfect master's preparation of his circle members, those who are in the circle remain perfectly in the dark about their divine advancement until the very end, when the light is suddenly switched on. In the twinkling of an eye, the indescribable, unimaginable, and unthinkable internal change takes place with a seemingly insignificant external gesture from the master, perhaps by a word or deed. Exactly how the master manages to dispose of the differing individual parabdas collectively cannot be divulged, since those who are not in the circle but think themselves to be so would be misled into committing such actions as would make them suffer terribly. This much is certain. Those who are in the circle do not acquire new material sanskaras, whatever they do, even if they commit the worst actions for which the master has to suffer. The connections are so formed that all the new material sanskaras of the connected ones automatically pass to the master, who does away with them. Hence, even if those of the connected ones commit the worst possible crimes, there would be no change regarding their divine upliftment at the right moment. But the real beauty lies in obeying and following the perfect master to the letter, in spite of knowing oneself to be in his circle, as it considerably helps him in the great task which he does for all the circle members' sake. The master's orders and instructions should be held as the very gospel and law, even in matters of everyday life. To eat with the will when he orders, or remain without food to the last. In fact, to exercise a complete submission to his super will should be the only goal one should have. It saves a great disappointment after the experience, when the greatest services done for the master fade into insignificance at the gigantic favor he has done for the one concerned. Shagan was appointed Baba's orderly on the 28th of November, and Vishnu was given new duties in the ashram. Bailey was instructed by Baba to enter into seclusion in a room on the hill the following day. On Tuesday, 29 November 1927, Baba appointed Baidul as his official CID, secret police officer. He directed him to keep a quiet, loving eye on the boys and appointed him as their manager to look after them and see that they were encouraged in their love for the master. Baidul took up his new post with zeal and began preaching to the children about the opportunity of being in Meher Ashram and the school, encouraging them to meditate on Baba. His enthusiasm was so pronounced that those children who usually only paid attention to their studies would start meditating as soon as they knew Baidul was approaching. No sooner would he walk away than their feigned meditation ended. But some of the boys were truly love-stricken and were having extraordinary inner experiences. Baidul was also directed by Baba to keep watch on the other mandali. He was to report the minutest defect at Mehrabad during school hours. Baidul would also sneak up to the mandali's quarters at night and standing quietly on one side of the bamboo matting, listening to their conversations. He would then report any indiscretions or complaints he had overheard to Baba, who would later rebuke the men involved. One night, Rustam was talking with Pendu and a few others in their quarters. Baidul suddenly came and stood on the other side of the bamboo partition. The mandali by now knew who was betraying them. Rustam silently rose, stood on a chair, and took a bucket of water and dumped it over Baidul's head. Thus the men joined forces in opposing this, quote, traitor, unquote. Nevertheless, Baidul faithfully carried out his CID duties. In obeying Baba's orders, one had to be steadfast in facing all resistance. Every man was working under some difficulty or pressure, and being together in such close proximity was like having a living death to the ego. Still, in such situations, love continued to thrive. And though one might be at odds with another for a while, or even consider another an enemy, internally, we were always brothers before our compassionate Lord. At 8 p.m. on the night of Friday, 2nd December, 1927, Baba expounded about the universe and Mahapralaya, or cosmic dissolution. How was the universe created? It was automatic. There are innumerable universes which are interlaced with one another. These universes are so numerous that even Sadgurus cannot count them. I once tried to count them while at Sukhori with Upasni Maharaj. It was astonishing that though the chains of these universes come out of the Sadguru and then merge back into him, they are still uncountable through his physical eyes. One night in Sukhori in 1921, Upasni Maharaj and I were sitting in his hut with the topic of counting when the topic of counting the universes arose. First, Maharaj tried to count them. In order to count the universes, he first had to stop the continuous flow of samskaric chains that are emerging, so he could count as many universes as possible. In order to do this, both his mind and the whole force of creation had to be concentrated on stopping the universes. This is extremely difficult and dangerous. From the oneness of God, duality is born, and this duality may prove fatal at times. The tension created by such concentration could cause one to drop the body. So Maharaj prevented me from stopping the chain flow because it actually threatened my life once while I was trying to do this. Maharaj told me, no Sadguru was ever successful in his counting, since the flow of direct knowledge is from the Sadguru himself. If this flow is stopped to count the universes, duality is affected. The Sadguru's life is put in danger by duality's reaction. These universes come out of the Sadguru and merge back into him after eons. This is called Mahapralaya. When the universes disappear in Mahapralaya, they are no longer in gross form, but they remain within the universal mind. Every individual gross mind rests in the universal mind. Though this is all an illusion, still the individual souls of all beings that inhabit the universes remain within the universal mind. And after eons, the evolution starts again. And every jivatma, or incarnate soul, gradually takes form in accordance with the consciousness he had before the cosmic event of Mahapralaya occurred. For example, in deep sleep, you are unconscious of both your body and the world. For you, this is dissolution or pralaya. When you awaken, creation begins again for you. You come back and the world is again existent to you. This is individual dissolution. But the Mahapralaya happens universally. It is the same as individual dissolution, only all universes dissolve. So it is called Mahapralaya. Maha meaning great. Briefly, this happens every day in an individual's sound sleep state. And after ages and ages, it happens universally. For this reason, it is said in the Quran, quote, on doomsday, everyone will rise up from his grave, end quote. Now I will explain to you about Ishwar. Ishwar is the creator, preserver, and dissolver, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, as one. This Ishwar is God, but he does not know himself. He is in the state of infinite unconsciousness. Okay, Rosalie, you can pick it up now.
Where am I? Just right here. However, yeah, I'm reading in the book. However, he knows how to create, preserve, and destroy the creation. How is this? When you blow up a balloon, your eyes are on the inflating of the balloon. And so you look at that and not at yourself. In the same way, the eyes of Ishwar are fixed on his creation and not on himself. Adjoining the north wall of Baba's underground crypt cabin, the Samadhi, on Mehrabad Hill, 6 small cells made of tata were constructed in a row. Baba called the humble structure the Sadak Ashram. It was established on the morning of Friday, 2nd December 1927. That's his accident day too, that December 2nd, when Baba instructed Gopal Swami, Shankarnath, Shariar Merabanpur, K.K. Manikar, and Gulab Shah each to occupy a room. One room was kept vacant. The 5 men were ordered to meditate and to fast on liquids. They were not to step out of the rooms on any condition, even for going to the toilet. They were given bedpans, and Vishnu was assigned the duty of cleaning these. Sidhu was assigned the duty of bringing the men milk and water each day. Just 2 days after the Sadak ashram was opened, the play of the master's wine began. Gopal Swami was the first to be overcome. He suddenly started crying and went on for almost 3 hours without stopping. Baba's only comment was, "This is a good sign." Later, each of the other 4 men were deeply affected and have profound inner experiences. At 3 in the afternoon on 4 December, Baba discoursed about the different religions of the world. Who gave all these different religions? The avatars. Why have they done so? To establish principles for people and to bring people to the point where their faces are turned toward God. Muhammad and Buddha both gave different precepts, but each according to the circumstances and mentality of the people of the time. Baba then drew a diagram of the spiritual path through the plains and described the various Sufi stages leading to union with God. Hakikat, realization. Marifat, inner knowledge. Tariqat, inner sight. And Shariat, outwardly following religious customs. And there's a little diagram about that. Hakikat equals realization. Anyway, he elaborated with the following analogies. Take the example of water. For instance, to think that there is water without ever having seen or tasted it is Shariat. To begin digging a well to strike and see water is Tariqat. After going sufficiently underground and finding water, this seeing is Marifat. Actually drinking water is Hakikat. Shariat can also be compared to the knowledge of a city, such as Bombay, from a map. The various activities and troubles one undergoes in reaching Bombay, procuring the money for the railway fare, reaching the station, and then traveling in the train can be taken as Tariqat. Then when one nears Bombay and sees the city from a distance, this is Marikat. Oh no, said that. This is Marifat. The arrival in the city itself is Hakikat. To give one more example, let us take the scene of a cow in a picture as equal to Shariat. The trouble and hardships in earning money to purchase an actual cow, and the purchase itself is Tariqat. Then milking the cow is Marifat, and actually drinking the milk is Hakikat. The religion of those in the contact of a Sadguru or avatar is to obey him. This is the highest type of religion. I have been telling you daily that the time is near, so be cautious and prepared. I can guide 5 persons, 50, or half the world to the path if it pleases me. But all this depends on one's preparation. I am the worshiper. I am the worship, and I am the one worthy of adoration. I am the fire. I am the spark, and I am the smoke. I am everything. I repeat this every night. I pray to myself and bow down to myself. Why? For worldly people, so that God may make them worthy of emancipation. And who is God? I, myself. The usual Thursday visitors came on 8 December 1927, including the Satta family. That's Erich's family, the Satta. A Syed Saheb, Ramju, and Babu Saikawala. Goma's daughter, Pirosha, was married the following day to Sohrab Irani, and the bride and bridegroom came at night for Baba's darshan. On 9 December, Baba discoursed on the Sadguru. Without the sanskaras being totally eliminated, there is no spiritual liberation. To dispose of sanskaras, one has to create reverse sanskaras, which are opposite in nature. Opposite impressions reverse the sanskaric makeup of the mind. To remove stains, soap or lime is necessary, but the mind never dies of itself. For example, suppose your hand is to be broken. It is difficult and almost impossible for you to twist your own hand enough to break it. But if a sturdy fellow comes along and twists it, your hand fractures in a second. That sturdy chap is the Sadguru, who is required to deal with the mind and all its mischief. But a Sadguru is not to be found so easily. It requires love. The search for truth amidst hardships and sufferings and undergoing untold difficulties. These draw the Sadguru to the deserving ones. If by hurting a person temporarily, you provide a permanent healing, this apparently cruel act of yours is, in fact, a blessing. In the same way, suppose that by rendering a temporary healing, you create a permanent hurt. This apparently blessed act of yours is, in fact, a curse. A doctor cutting open a boil and causing so much pain to the sufferer is considered an enemy who has hurt one. But when the pus is removed, the patient is relieved. And the doctor is considered a real friend who helped. So the Sadguru is at first apparently considered an enemy when he tries to remove sins and wipe out desires and sanskaras of the aspirant by forcing strict discipline on him, renunciation, etc. But when the bliss of union with the divine beloved is attained through his grace, he is considered a true friend. I have to insert something that Baba said he's removing 3/4 of unnatural sanskaras for us. So speak of pus being removed. On Saturday, 10 December 1927, a few of the ashram boys who were profoundly moved by Meher Baba's love and who preferred meditation to studying were singled out and kept separately from the other boys. Rao Sahib was put in charge of them, and special food arrangements were made for them. This was the beginning of what was to be called the Prem, love ashram. At first, these boys of the Prem ashram were kept down the hill with the Irani boys. But after 5 days, all were shifted up the hill where Baba stayed. At times, the other boys in the Meher ashram also appeared profoundly affected by Baba's love, similarly to those who were now segregated in the Prem ashram. But for the most part, the Meher ashram boys were more inclined toward their studies than meditation. On 12 December, Duni Day, Keki Arani from Ghatkopar visited after a long time. On the 15th at Shahane's house, Rustam read to Baba an article from the newspaper about a live crab being created from a piece of metal. This elicited the following candid explanation from the master. This is due to occult powers, but remember, it has nothing to do with ghost. Ghost and occult or black magic are quite different. Spirit, mind, and energy itself, as in ghosts, is a power, originally the power of cause, but occult powers are powers that are caged and covered. A tantric seeks occult powers. Footnote. There's a footnote. Marvin.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted
Yeah.
accidentally.
Yeah.
Tantrics are persons who temporarily acquire minor occult powers through certain exercises or practices. Tantric exercises are based on scriptures called tantras, which were supposedly passed down by Shiva. And actually, it's time for the next reader. So, Marion, would you pick up here, please?
Let me read just the end of the tantric, really. I'm right into it here.
It goes on for most of the page, actually. All right, go ahead. We'll go
I
ahead.
mean, I remember Bao Kalchuri saying they used to eat shit to gain these powers. You know, by acquiring such powers, the tantric spirit contracts very bad sanskaras, worse than the sanskaras of the worst sins, and reaps the fruit accordingly. So I advise you all not to fall prey to such madness. This has no connection with the spiritual path to God. On the contrary, the treader of such a path is far, far away from the spiritual path because he accumulates the worst possible kind of sanskaras, which prove an obstacle to his progress on the path. Okay, Marianne.
Thank you, Rosalie. The least said about occult powers, the better. This type of tantric spirit, as opposed to ghosts of suicides, is even more terrible and neither receives nor gives benefit from his efforts. He gains occult powers through various studies or by very undesirable practices, like eating excrement.
There it is.
Drinking blood, and other such unclean acts. This type of tantric practice takes a very long time, and the person concerned acquires only the power of making his body image, I'll start that again. This type of tantric practice takes a very long time, and the person concerned acquires only the power of making his body large or small. He can make his body smaller than an ant's and then assume his human bodily form again. But he changes into another form for some material gain or objective. He can enter another's body by making his body small, but his own gross bodily sanskaras are with him in his tiny form. Ghosts are not like tantric spirits. Ghosts are people who have committed suicide and have no body. They enter another body and then make the body of whomever they enter do as they wish. But he who has gained occult powers does not do so. He only makes his body big or small, and thus his bodily sanskaras are always with him. In this action, there is also the danger that through some accident, he may be trampled on by some person while in his little body. In short, after long and hard study, such tantrics do not benefit in any way, but on the contrary, risk contracting some of the worst possible sanskaras. So there is no use in playing such a worthless game. Discussing advanced souls in other parts of the world, Baba revealed on 17 December, there are 3 Satpurushs, God-realized persons, in Persia and 1 in Egypt. There is 1 very advanced soul in London who is stationed between the 4th and 5th planes. He is a telegraph receiver and does as ordered, though I, his master, am unknown to him. There is 1 in America, still further advanced. He knows I am his master. The following day, after being secluded in the Sadhak ashram for 16 days, Gopal Swami and Manikar both saw a brilliant light. In the beginning of his search, Manikar had gone to Mahatma Gandhi's ashram seeking truth, and from there he had come to Meherabad. But nothing like this had ever happened to him before. He now knew that the object of his life was only obeying Meher Baba. On 19 December, Baba directed Gustaji and his brother Sohrab to stay in 2 temporary rooms which had been built near his underground cabin. Gustaji had been living alone on the veranda of the Jopti at Lower Meherabad, looking after the garden there. His duty was now given to Masaji. One night, Baba made these comments to the Mandali concerning the process of death. You eat food, and to keep yourselves healthy and fit, you pass out the residue as excrement. But do you ever shed tears for the waste you eliminate? Do you ever think about it or feel regret over it? Not at all. Then if someone dear dies, why do you weep for that discarded body, which is like food to the soul? You preserve and protect your body to feed your soul. The body is the medium for the soul's progress. When your excrement is eliminated, you eat fresh food. Similarly, with the disposal of the old body, you take a new body. So why worry and weep over that which is the law of nature and cannot be altered? Sadgurus and the Avatar consider human death to be absolutely unimportant. They do not feel bad about anyone's death. For them, the whole universe is a very, very small thing, a small point. The human body can be compared to the fibers on the outer shell of a coconut. Hundreds of such hairs fall off, but the coconut water remains safe inside. Similarly, thousands of human bodies may fall, but the soul is immortal. It never dies. It is always living and eternal. December 20 was the 41st day of Baba's prolonged fast. He was taken up the hill in the hand-drawn rickshaw, and there he retired into the underground crypt cabin in seclusion. Baba had been going up the hill most evenings and giving discourses to the boys before retiring in his Jopti at Lower Meherabad at about 10 or 10:30 p.m. after Arti. Now he began spending the night in the underground pit with a flat wooden board cover placed over it, and the day in the upper portion of the cabin. But that first night at 9 p.m., Baba came down the hill unexpectedly in the rickshaw to the Makan. Adi Sr. had come and was just about to leave in his car after having dinner. Baba spoke with Rustam, Ramju, and Dastur and issued this order. No teacher or even the principal of the ashram school should touch any of the boys. Although the order seemed quite ordinary, there was a deeper meaning behind it. It was meant to protect the boys from receiving any shock from others at the time of their experiencing an advanced spiritual state. After about an hour, Baba returned to the hill in Adi's car with the mandali. After this, Baba did not step out of his cabin, the samadhi, for 2 months and 8 days. And during this period, he continued to fast on only one pint of coffee per day. In the last days of the fast, he stopped drinking coffee and remained only on water. MEHER would lovingly and meticulously prepare the coffee and warm water with all her heart. But it was more than coffee that was sustaining Baba all these days. It was her love as well. Every day for the previous month and a half, the master would give discourses to the boys who sat on the raised platform outside the east window of his crypt. His explanations were about the creation, the different worlds, suns, universes, and about sanskaras and the evolution of forms. On Wednesday, 21 December 1927, Baba gave this analogy while explaining the evolution of consciousness and drew a sketch of his description. Let's see. So the sketch will be further explained as the sanskaras of darkness and human sanskaras and the gradations of stones night, vegetables midnight, animals pre-dawn, and humans morning. There are 4 stages of light. In stages 1, 2, and 3, the sun is not seen due to the sanskaras of darkness. But in the human state, it is morning, and the light of the sun is meant to be seen. However, due to the clouds of human sanskaras, it is hidden. So what should be done? The clouds should be driven away. But how? For the clouds to be driven away, burn up your sanskaras. Think of me always. Love me. And to think of me, you must not think of yourself ever. On 23 December, Baba compared Baidul to Hanuman. During a discourse that evening, Baba pointed out his uncle Masaji as an example to illustrate the soul's progress in evolution.
Okay, thank you. I think, Franny, are you ready?
874-1927. I shall give one more example to prove clearly that this Atma, soul, remains the same, but the forms and knowing change, For instance, when Masaji is newly born, he is a stone. When Masaji is 7 years old, suppose he turns into metal form, then into vegetable form. The form changes. The knowing increases a little each time, but Masaji is the same. Now when he is 14 years old, he changes into the animal form, in which his knowing increases again. When he is 28 years old, he becomes a monkey. When he is 56, he acquires a human body. Still, you can be sure that the Sadhgurus will not consider Masaji as even having been born yet. But the day he turns his eyes inward, that is the day of his real birth in the eyes of the Sadhgurus. So at present, you're all like corpses. You may know much in the worldly sense, but you are lifeless to us masters. If you want to be truly alive, and turn the mind inwards. How to turn the mind? It is in the hands of the Sadhguru, by the help of a Sadhguru, at the price of your love for him. So remember this figure: 1 plus 7 plus 14 plus 28 plus 56. That's 1 plus 7 plus 14 plus 28 plus 56 equals 106. And 1 plus 0 plus 6 equals 7. That is 6 on one side and 1 on the other. Could you go back to that, please, those numbers? Thanks. Thank you. I need a new passcode. There's a diagram of a crescent moon with a 7 above it and then a ladder below it. With 7 rungs. Keep scrolling, please. On Christmas Eve, all had tea near Baba, and gramophone records were played from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Ajoba, being a Christian, gave a nice talk about Jesus. On the 25th, Baba's feet were washed at noon, and a special music program was held from 5 to 10 o'clock in the evening. The lead singer of the group shed tears as he sang before Baba, who afterwards presented the singer with his shawl. Visitors were permitted to come to Meherabad and tour the ashram. In the course of his explanations, the following day, Baba revealed, as previously explained, there are an infinite number of worlds which have cooled down, and for each such world to cool down takes cycles and cycles. Imagine how long. But when a man attains realization and ascends to the 7th plane, he feels as if only a second has passed. That is, no time has actually passed. During the numberless changes of forms and deaths and births of 84 lakhs, 8,400,000 times, now that according to you it accounts for billions of years, and there is no limit to accounting. Now I know that according to you it accounts for billions of years, and there is no limit to accounting. But my experience is that nothing has happened and there is no time spent. In reference to the number 7, Baba elaborated, there are 7 worlds, planets in evolution, 7 skies, 7 suns, 7 months, 7 planes, and 7 heavens in involution. Why the figure 7? And sanskaras too are 7 colors. Why? Because in the very beginning, when energy, pran, clashed with matter, akash, it created 7 divisions. Each individual human being is a universe unto himself. In the head there are 7 openings, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. In the body there are 7 parts, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 openings, front and back, and one trunk. But all this explaining of the universe and creation relates to the hair and has nothing to do with the head. So first try to get hold of the head, because out of it comes everything. Baba drew a figure of a man's head with hair and added, and the figure has a head equals God and hairs equal universe. The barber's work is to shave the head. And who is the barber in this case? Mahapralaya. For when it occurs, all the hairs, the universes, on God's head are shaved off. It is said that the universes pour out of the Godhead. They are like hair. Your head may symbolize God and your hair the universe. K.J. Dastur had been given notes and other written material about Baba as he was working on a biography of Baba. While Baba was giving a discourse that evening, Adi Senior was sitting by the window of the crypt room. Listening, Dastur came and abruptly told Adi to make room for him by moving over. Not liking the tone of his voice, Adi asked why he should move. Dastur replied, "Because this is my seat." "Well, have you paid for it?" Adi asked. Seeing that Adi's remark upset Dastur, Baba took Adi to task for instigating a quarrel. He then motioned to Adi to seek Dastur's pardon by touching his feet, which he did. Adi felt humiliated, having had to bow to Dastur. But after the incident, when Dastur had left, Baba explained to Adi, "You should have become like dust. I scolded you to turn you into dust." Baba continued, "You have not lost anything. What you consider to be your loss is in fact your gain. There is gain where there is loss, and without loss there can be no gain. How can one benefit and realize God without first shedding the ego?" On 27 December, Baba touched upon what happened at the beginning of creation. When energy clashed with matter, four things appeared: fire, water, air, and earth, in quick succession. Stones, metals, and vegetation have connection with earth. Worms with earth and water, fish with water, birds with air, animals with fire, and human beings with all elements. By fire is meant lightning. Lightning is everywhere, but it is covered by a layer of ether. It has direct connection with animals, and so their digestive powers are strong and they eat a lot, to such an extent as if they are born only for eating. In the zoo in Bombay is an elephant, which, if you happen to see it, spends all its time eating. The first worm form after the vegetable kingdom is totally green in color. The last worm form is the crab. It is found in moist earth. That is, it goes in water too. It has become a fish and therefore seeks water. After this form is frog, the last form of fish.
We have a sidebar. In several subsequent explanations, Baba stated that the crab was the last form of fish.
It wants to leave water, so it has a turning point form. After frog is the jalkukti, the waterfowl. In birds, you will mark that some species have an affinity to water, with water. These are the first forms after fish. The next most advanced form of birds have an affinity with air, and the last most bird forms with earth, such as roosters. After that, all those bird forms, there's the kangaroo form. The first form of animal life is the kangaroo form, and the last form of animals, as you can guess, is the monkey or ape. On Wednesday, 28th December 1927, after remaining closeted in one of the rooms of Sadak Ashram for 26 days, Gulab Shah suddenly ran away. A life of strict seclusion and fasting on only milk proved too much of a restriction for him, preventing him from living the independent life he desired. His abrupt departure, however, did not affect Merab Anpur, Shankarnath, Gopal Swami, and Manikar, who continued to remain fasting in their cells. A woman came for Baba's darshan the same day and referred to him as the Omniscient One. Thereupon Baba discoursed on the 4 types of knowledge: worldly knowledge, inner knowledge of the planes, self-knowledge of the 7th plane, and all knowledge, which only the avatars and Sadgurus have in order to work in and for the 3 worlds.
Okay, thank you. Next reader, Mona or Mahu.
Maho, please.
Go ahead, Mahu.
Okay. Page 877 and year 1927. Baba then explained the 7 planes and 7 heavens. Corresponding to the 7 planes are 7 parts of the physical body. First plane, the navel. Second plane, the left part of the chest. Third plane, the right part of the chest. Fourth plane, the lower part of the throat. Fifth plane, the center of the throat. Sixth plane, the third eye between the 2 eyes. Seventh plane, the top or the center of the head. The parts corresponding to the 7 heavens are quite different and are in the back part of the body. The parts corresponding to the 7 planes are in the front. The first heaven, back of the navel. Second heaven, back of the left chest, and so forth, up to the 7th heaven at the back of the head. The yogis take the path through the heavens, but it is a path fraught with obstacles which are next to impossible to overcome. Marvelous splendors exist in the heavens, and it is virtually impossible not to be drawn into them. The seeker becomes enchanted in the beauty of the heavens, with the result that his progress comes to a grinding halt. Even plane is like the railroad station of a city, and every heaven is like the actual city. For this reason, the way through the heavens is longer and has the additional risk of the seekers becoming engrossed in the attractions of the city. Take an example of a man who's quite penniless, a beggar. However, he has 45 children. While wandering with his family, he thinks that if he could beg $1, he would manage the food of his children for the day. In the meantime, he comes across a pile of jewels. Now tell me, will he stop? He cannot help but stop. But if there is a Sadguru, he would enable him to proceed to go to the station instead of the city. However much you may try to persuade a drunken man that a small puddle of water is nothing, he does not believe you and sees it as an ocean. He staggers while walking under the delusion that he's flying. Hold on 1 second, let me turn off this phone, 1 second.
I'll continue until she gets back. He does not believe you and sees it as an ocean. He staggers while walking under the delusion that he is flying. He sees things magnified as double or sometimes triple. And as much as you try to convince him that there is only one of a thing, he sees two or sometimes more.
Can I read next?
Go ahead, Mahu. Pick it up now.
In the same way, you all have the false belief that the world is real. You cannot digest this truth, this fact, when I tell you that everything is false, a dream, an illusion. But just have faith in me, listen to me, love me, and one day you will have the awareness that God alone is the reality. He is the truth, and everything else is illusion. On 29 December, Baba mentioned the death of Kondiram, one of the early Kaspapeth Mandali, and also discoursed about the avatar. The avatar can do all that a Sadguru does. He has and prepares a circle as a Sadguru does, but he does one special thing also. The avatar can make a person who is not even in the circle or turn to God, meaning on the plains, a God realized Saleh with a special duty. If I get the whim, I may make a few selected boys of the ashram, God realized, at once and again bring them back for a special duty. But for that, the time must come, and also the whim. Krishna was the avatar, and he realized and brought down 17 persons who were outside his circle. These 17 were extra God realized souls. Let me see who now gets the apple. It all depends on love. So leave all this crying about separation and do only one thing, love me. Then I will do something special for not only 17, but for many as I like. I have the power. There is no doubt as to that. So create and increase love. And what is the meaning of love? It means but one thing, thinking of me and nothing else. The next morning, Kekobad Dastur visited again from Nafsari. Kekobad tried to make an offering of 51 rupees, but was told no monetary offering would be accepted. Sweets, however, would be, and Kekobad brought some when he returned 5 days later. Sailor and Sadashif arrived on the 31st. On the evening of 30th December, Baba revealed to the Mandali, my wish at this time is advancing boys and turning them into solids. I am mostly concerned with boys, and that is why all this trouble, the ashram school, and that is why all this trouble, the ashram school. You will see how many of these boys will be saints. The time is very near, and after this work is finished, I will manifest. But the wind must come, and it is very difficult for it to come. But once it does, everything will be automatically done. I will show God to some, and I will make some God. The boys' luck is so good that they have come near me. Great yogis have been clamoring for years to see God and become one with God. Some have been fasting for 10 years. Some have been hanging upside down for 20 years. Yet still I do not go to them. I tell you, some of the boys will see me as I really am. So urge them to go on loving me more and more and be worthy of this. Soon after, the boys of the Premashram began shedding tears night and day, giving vent to their overwhelming feelings and trying to lighten the burden of their hearts. They would suddenly begin weeping in the school or while playing or taking food, and they themselves had no idea why they were crying. Sunday, 1st January 1928, was the 52nd day of the Master's fast and the 12th day of his seclusion. Baba was sitting in the upper portion of the underground crypt cabin. In honor of MEHER's birthday that day, according to the Zoroastrian calendar, Baba permitted Rostam to bring her and the other women up the hill for darshan at 11 a.m. Masaji and Memo accompanied them. The women performed the arti, and the sweets Rostam had brought were distributed. A second group of women was brought later, which included, among other, Pilamai and Bomanji's wife. The newly repainted Meherabad signboard was erected that afternoon, probably near the Duni. The boys had been permitted to sit near Baba that day and meditate. The atmosphere in Meherabad was such that even the angels envied these small children. The birds were resting in their nests, and the sun had snuck below the horizon after saluting Baba. The boys were in the ashram and all was calm and peaceful. It seemed as if Baba had gone into seclusion only for the boys. For at that moment, a breeze from the depth of his crypt wafted over them. And for the first time in their short lives, they felt God's love. They tasted wine. All the boys of the Premashram together burst forth into such loud wailing that the sound of their tears could be heard a quarter of a mile away. The residents came running up the hill from Lower Meherabad, and villagers passing by on the road came to investigate the cries they heard.
Okay, thanks, Mahu. PS, would you like to read now?
The Mandali and teachers did their utmost to soothe the children, but there was nothing they could do, for in truth, nothing was really the matter. What they heard was the unspeakable longing of their souls for God. Out of the master's heart poured wine, and it was love itself that was weeping. For half an hour, until approximately 7:30 in the evening, the children's outbursts continued, and all attempts to quiet them failed. The boys' hearts loudly sobbed, Baba, 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 and except for him, nothing else existed to them. Ghani and Rustam were summoned specially to witness the scene. Baba then summoned all the boys to his crypt cabin, and on seeing him, their weeping ceased. Age observed, it seemed as if love was singing in their tears, and at the sight of the beloved, its longing was fulfilled. Concerning their outburst of love, Baba explained to the children, I am satisfied with the state of yours, and this crying really shows love. But when I order you to stop crying, you should stop. Your weeping means love, but you must also obey orders. Don't check your love, increase it, but obey my orders. Remain steadfast in your obedience, however saturated you may be with love. If you cry the whole day, there is no harm. Follow my orders. When I say stop, you should at once stop. Those who live in my love until the last will receive my grace. Baba recounted stories to the boys of Ram Tirtha and Vivekanand and the love they had for their gurus. One of the Premashram boys, Vasant B. Kimbahuni, 14, had been weeping the whole day. Baba said he would go mad if he was stopped. Baba explained that he was working to make a few of the most sincere boys ready to be pushed up, to be made one with God. Baba concluded, a Sadguru has infinite powers and can realize one in a fraction of a second. The next day, 2nd January, during the 20-minute recess on the playground, the weeping recurred. But as soon as the gong was struck to return to classes, things became still. The boys entered the school and were quiet. Love was still thundering in their hearts, but they somehow managed to control their feelings. For 2 or 3 days, divine love wept loudly in the children. It even affected the women and some of the Mandali who also wept. Scroll. It stopped subsequently as suddenly as it had erupted, though some of the boys could be seen sitting alone, quietly shedding tears. Love began silently singing in the boys' heart, and its ecstasy was expressed through the silence of their tears. On the 4th, Baba began giving darshan to the boys and remarked to the mandali, I have selected some boys for their love, some for their heart, and some for their intellect. 20 of them are sincere and faithful. Their love for me is increasing day by day, and I'm satisfied with it. On Friday, 2nd January 1928, about a dozen Indian soldiers were marching past Meherabad on their way to Bisapur. They requested Baba's darshan. Baba graciously permitted it, and Jalbai escorted them up to the hill at 7:45 a.m., where they paid Baba a full military salute. After the soldiers left, Baba called the boys and disclosed to them, this is a sign of a great war taking place in the very near future. Baba then sent orders with Jalbai to close the school at 7 o'clock. A half hour later, at his request, a sacred bath was given to Baba, first by the boys and then by the mandali. Baba had a declaration read out, which he had dictated to his brother Praharam. In it, Baba revealed that at about 2 a.m. that night, a secret conference of spiritual masters had to be held in his underground crypt, wherein it was decided that a great war would soon begin. The unexpected and abrupt arrival of the military personnel in the morning portended the same. Baba concluded his declaration by repeating, a great war will shortly take place, and when it is raging furiously, I will come forward and manifest as the avatar. A typed extract of Baba's remarks was read out to the boys in hall number 2, middle room of the water tank, by Vishnu, Rao Sahib and Dastur in Marathi, Persian and Gujarati respectively. Baba commented, today is the best day. It is the day on which the foundation of the future activities of my universal work in this avataric period has been laid. Hence, I ordered the school closed, had a sacred bath, and dictated the declaration to Behram. About the secret meeting, Baba remarked to Rustum and the Mandali. Before the meeting, I inquired of Gustaji and then Ramju if anything was in the vicinity and warned him to make sure that no one came near my crypt. Because if someone happened to pass by here, where masters were assembled in subtle form, it could be harmful to the person concerned. Peers, saints sometimes keep tigers as watchmen for this reason, to guard their boundaries so that no one may venture inside. On Sunday, 8th January 1928, each boy would weep alone in a secluded spot. Vasant sat near Baba and wept on his legs. Memo, Pilamai, and Big Khorshid had come for a visit and were deeply moved by the outpouring of love from the boys. You read it again? Unmute.
There we go. Shireen Mai returned to Pune on 13 January, while Pilamai remained in the ashram with the women mandali.
Kekubat also visited again, and Baba praised his love. One other visitor 2 days later was Vishnu's friend Neelu, who was attending medical school. On the 8th, Baba composed this couplet. Who weeps for love, he weeps the best. Who cries for else, he does but jest. Later, while discoursing to the boys about the purpose of creation, Baba gave an example of a palace. Suppose there is a palace and inside it is seated a king. The palace has one door but no windows. It stands on 3 pillars. It has 7 walls, one of iron, another of zinc, the third of silver, the fourth of gold, the fifth of stone, the sixth of wood, and the seventh of pearls. In front of the palace is a compound in which there are 3 ponds. One is filled with water, the second with milk, and the third is rose water. A little in front of these ponds is a lane. There are 7 tigers guarding the lane. At the end of the lane is a garden full of sweet-smelling flowers. Above each section of flowers is a canopy. Coiled on top of each canopy is a snake. Coming out of the garden, you face a desert you have to cross. After crossing the desert, you face a river you have to cross. On the other side of the river is a city, and then finished, you reach the end. Baba concluded, if you understand this example, the whole Vedanta will be intellectually revealed to you. However, as it was late in the day, Baba did not explain the full meaning of this symbolic landscape.
The symbolism of the metaphorical images may be as follows. The palace, the 7th plane. The 3 pillars, the 3 worlds, gross, subtle, and mental. The 7 walls, the 7 planes. The 3 ponds, varying stages of the purifying of consciousness. The 7 tigers, the devouring of sanskaras. The lane, the spiritual path. The flowers, chakras. The snakes, the power of Maya. The desert, nirvana, nothingness. The river, the gap between the 6th and 7th planes. The city, where all realized souls dwell.
Baba continued to give explanations on creation every morning. On the 9th January, he called the classes earlier than usual at 7:15 a.m. After spending the first 15 minutes in general conversation, he began again where he had left off the previous day. But after a few minutes, he suddenly stopped, explaining that he was not in the mood to finish.
Okay, thank you. Dinesh, would you like to read?
We only have 3 minutes.
All right. Oh, it's Elizabeth. Elizabeth, go ahead, read a page.
Okay. 883, Love is Weeping, 1928. He then mysteriously remarked, there is some communication going on with the one in London, the one on the path between the 4th and 5th planes. Instructions are being given to him and my attention is needed. That day, Gopal Swami, in his cell in the Sadhak ashram, saw yet another even more dazzling light, which he later claimed nearly blinded him. He was in a state of bliss and would spontaneously sing out Baba's name. One of the older boys, Abdullah Pakravan, had come initially to MEHER ashram only to further his education. But Baba's contact brought about a complete transformation in him, and the master's working gradually had its effect within him. When Abdullah was destined to glimpse the glory of God, the wine of love began rushing through his veins, ignoring the illusion of the world before him. On the 7th of January, Abdullah was in such a state, Chanji recorded that it would not have subsided had Shri not offered Abdullah his cup of tea. On 11 January, Baba was not in a good mood all afternoon. Bal Saheb was severely taken to task. But while discoursing to the boys and Mandali who were seated on the platform outside his cabin, Baba disclosed, "Those whom I find worthy, I shall attract to the mistress of love, and to them I shall offer his elixir of life. Children, only truth is real. All else is worthless. Try to be diligent. I shall make pure gold from your mixed alloys." Suddenly, Abdullah saw an extraordinary flash of light coming from Baba's window. Overpowered, he fell down unconscious, and at Baba's direction, he was removed to the hospital. Inside the crypt cabin, Baba removed his own jacket, and although the weather was quite cold, his chest was covered with perspiration. Outwardly, he was perspiring as he inwardly worked to change Abdullah's consciousness. Baba later explained that he was working to raise Abdullah to the sixth plane. Resting at the hospital, Abdullah's eyes looked vacant. He had lost his normal consciousness. He was actually seeing God, and he remained in this elevated state for 4 days. On the third day of Abdullah's transformation, one of the Persian boys, Espandiar Vasali, went to see him in the hospital. "Abdullah, do you know me?" Vasali asked. Abdullah, semi-conscious, opened his eyes and replied softly, "Yes." "Who am I?" Vasali asked. "You are Baba." A matchbox was lying nearby, and Vasali picked out a match and held it up to him. "Do you see this? What is it?" "It is Baba," Abdullah answered. Whatever Abdullah was asked, he would answer with only one word, Baba. He saw Baba everywhere.
Okay, I think we'll stop right there. I think we'll stop right here. We'll pick it up right here next week, page 884.
Hey, Marvin, could you go back to that picture of the seven, like the, with the semicircle, and had the seven above it, and then it had the steps on it?
Yes, just give me a sec here. Let me try to stop the recording.
Thank you.
All good. Have a good day.
Oh, did you change the one there? The battery? There's one in
I
Persian.
changed the carbon monoxide.